I'm going to pop myself on mute and hand over to the gorgeous Kiki, who's looking radiant in yellow today.
Oh, thank you so much for such a lovely introduction, and good morning or good afternoon or good evening wherever you are all listening in from. So thank you. Yellow is my favorite color, and green. So you'll often see me in a lot of yellow, and I love a good old bow. So I felt it was appropriate to wear a bow today, just one of those days. So welcome to this time that we are going to spend together. I absolutely love goal setting. So can you all see my slides, by the way? Just give me okay, great. Because sometimes you aren't always sure whether everybody can see everything, but I just want to make sure that you can see everything, so that's great. So I could talk all day, every day about goals, and I think especially in this time right now, people are probably feeling a lot of uncertainty, a lot of how do I set goals in this time. And so what I want to do today is I want to share what I've done over the last 20 years of setting goals. So I've got lots of bits here. I've got little slides, and then I've got lots of little props that I'm going to share with you. And hopefully you can keep up. The slides will get sent across afterwards, and then there'll be some questions that I do want you to think about. So before we get started, some of you will hate the word goal, and some of you will love the word goal. And then some of you on this call today will have a great mindset, and then some of you will have a very poor or fixed mindset. And so having spent 20 years doing goal setting, achieving goals, not achieving goals, overachieving in goals, being burnt out with achieving goals, that's what I want to share with you is how I've done it, and then also how I've learned through this process. So firstly, before we get started, how do you feel about goal setting and strategy, and how do you also feel about staying on track to achieve success? And I'd really love you to pop that in the comments during this, before we get started. It's really important that we really acknowledge where we are right now, so that we can also create change. So perhaps you could just write that in the comments, or even whether you like goals or whether you don't like goals. So I'm just trying to get the comments. Let me just get them in front of me. It'd be just good to see. So it might be that I have to come back to the comments, just getting everything on set there. So that's what I want to share with you, is just how you can navigate in this time of setting goals, and how perhaps maybe you can change your mindset around goal setting and what that all looks like for you. So for each of you, you're going to have very different scenarios of where you are right now. Some of you are still working, some of you are furloughed, some of you are just not sure about the future. Some of you have started some new business opportunities. Some of you have started something like Bruce has done with this, started something new. So it's a really good opportunity to acknowledge where you are right now, and then what you want to do differently in moving forward. So I want you to also just have a think about what made you decide to join this session today, and what do you think about goals, and how well do you deal with uncertainty, and then what clarity do you want from this session? So you might recognize that there's quite a lot of questions I'm getting you to ask quite early on, because that's really important for us to get the clarity and the intention when we're setting goals. And that's often what tends to happen when we are setting goals, is we don't have that clarity of how we really want to move forward with setting these goals. So I want you to just have a think about that. If you would like to post it in the comments, I'd really like to hear what you've got to say, because each of you will be in different stages right now. And also, that's how you'll also learn from other people, because some of you might be feeling some of the similar sort of things. So what made you decide to join the session? What do you think about goals? How well do you deal with uncertainty? And what clarity do you want from this session that we're on today?
So yes, we've got some people that are saying they enjoy setting goals. It gives them something to work towards. And we've got, I like goals, but not every boss manager is that organized, or indeed if they were, sometimes not realistic.
Okay, yes, that's a big one, yeah.
Yeah, so somebody needs to set goals within their own goals, looking for pointers where to start. So this is great.
Okay, great.
Somebody else likes goals. They set themselves regularly, as well as the goals they get from their managers, but they ability to deal with things as and when they come up. Alba's saying that goals keep them motivated to continue growing in her career. Hence when to achieve one of the goals, I always like to set myself a new goal, even if it's a small and easy one. And Kelly's saying goals help with achieving one's purpose. And then we've got, I find setting goals in certain situations, for example, sports, easier than in work, profession, or sometimes even in life.
Okay, so a right mix of different things there, but some really positive things actually, which is great. So really good that some of you have shared that and also acknowledged where you are right now. So this is what we're going to cover. We're going to look at the power of goal setting, how to stay on track and achieve success and uncertainty, goal setting mistakes, and something I just want to touch on mistakes is mistakes are cool. It's how we learn through the mistakes. It's how we learn through the lessons. And then how to set goals and accomplish them, reflecting and measuring the data and then implementing what we get from that. And I think that's probably one of the things that I see has come up so often where it's missing from when people are setting goals. And then 10 steps to success. So I hope that that is helpful for you. And I think the key thing I want to also share throughout this time that we're together is this can be really simple. I've overcomplicated it over the years. So I really want you to think about this in simplicity and in simple terms and not to overcomplicate it. And I think that's what happens is when we talk about goals, people sometimes think, oh my goodness, it's so big. Where do I even begin? But it's simple and every step counts, the ones that we take and then the ones that we don't take. So just a little bit about myself. I'll just touch a brief because there's a lot of familiar faces on here. So I am Kiki. I'm from Zimbabwe originally, and I'm also Greek, and I've been in the UK for close to 20 years, and I've got a background of working in recruitment, HR, and then I've had my coaching consultancy in the most recent 5 years. And we're really passionate about coaching heart-centered individuals to slow down, to find inner peace, to grow their mindset, and to seek life and purpose in their work. And a lot of the clients we tend to work with are clients who are working in very high-pressured environments or a lot of high achievers. And so we're really passionate about teaching you tools and strategies to slow down, to find calmness, clarity, and focus on your well-being. And I'm sure all of us on here want more calmness and clarity on our well-being. And Parisha and I were just talking about that before we got started. And we also do a lot in the corporate workspace around tackling retention, talent, employee engagement, people development, through coaching and learning and development and consultancy. So that's just a little bit about us, about myself, and what we do. And so goals. So I want you to, before we get started, just have a look here and see what tends to stand out here at you. So, you know, it's quite a colourful, yellow colourful image there. And then there's lots of things that are attached to that. So priorities, email, schedule, finish, reminder. And I think that's the key thing I want to say to you is when it comes to setting goals, it's not just about having a goal. It needs to be supported by all of these different things that are surrounding the word goals. And what tends to happen is when we are setting goals is we tend to not really we don't really have a lot of these supporting things around us. So then that's what gets in the way of us achieving the success or achieving the goal that we need to get to. So I want you to just have a look at that and see what stands out for you, perhaps maybe what's been missing for you when you've been setting goals out of this particular list over here. And again, please feel free to share in the comments and then we can pick up on that as we go along. I can get Parisha to do that. Okay. So the power of goal setting, and I think this is really important for us to understand what the meaning of goal is, because I think very often people can get scared of what it means. And it's about re-identifying and working out whatever word works for you. So I use the word goal because that's what's in the industry I'm in. That's what I've learned when I became a qualified coach. But for you, it's about connecting with whatever that word means for you. So this is the meaning of a goal. So it's an aim, it's an ambition, it's an aspiration, it's a design, it's a dream, it's an end, it's an idea, ideal, intent, intention, objective, plan, point, pretension, purpose, target. And so I think the key thing for you is to identify which one do you relate to the most, and if you find one you prefer, is to use that. I ran a lot of what I'm showing here quite recently in February at a wellbeing event, and it was interesting. A lot of the women there couldn't really relate to the word goal, but they could relate to some of the other definitions. And I think it's identifying what's really important for you. And then the other key thing is big journeys begin with small steps. But very often what happens is we want the big thing, we want to get to the big thing, but we haven't worked out what the small steps are. And that's what I want to show you today, is how you can create those small steps in your everyday of setting goals. And so a failed plan is not a failed vision. And I think very often what happens is, if our plan is not solid enough, what happens is we give up on the vision, we give up on the dream, we give up on the action that we need to take. And so here today, I really just want to encourage you not to give up your vision. And are you giving up at the first obstacle or the first challenge that is coming up? Because you can take a different approach to your plan. You can refine your vision, your strategy. It's simple. And a lot of the time, it's our mindset over the matter, and we need to sort our mindset out. And this picture that I'm sharing here on the left-hand corner is a vision board of mine, and I do a lot around vision boards, and I'm going to share a little bit more detail about that shortly. But it's a way of you having your goals in a picture environment with images. But the really significant thing about this particular vision I want to share with you here. So 2.5 years ago, I had a cough, and I went to the doctor, and then I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I was 3 generations to have experienced cancer. And it was a massive shock for me at the time, because my business had been going, I think it was about 3 years at that time. And I had these massive goals. I was about to get married. About 4 months later, I was looking at growing my business. I just started doing some online things. And then there I was having cancer. And this vision, as you can see here, it's quite a small vision. It's quite small compared to some of the other stuff I've done in the past. But what that did was it kept me really refined to work through my cancer journey. It helped me to keep motivated on the goals of working through my health, on keeping my business going, still creating. And that's the key thing. Is it's not about giving up on your vision, but it's about readjusting that plan. And what happens is, without a vision, you're going to return to the past life that you've had, or the past beliefs that you've got. And so I want you to really think about, decide on what you want for the rest of the year, or even for the rest of May, what you want. And then commit to the vision of what you want, a plan, and then focus on every single step, every single day, because that's how you succeed. And to everything, there's a process. And so I want you to start thinking about these sorts of things. And this was another reason why, when I spoke to the team at Zest, was this is such a great opportunity now to be setting goals. I typically, and my clients do this, a couple of them are on this call right now, Holly, Amy, and when I started working with them, not a lot of them had set work goals, but something I'm really passionate about is setting goals at the beginning of the month. So tomorrow, no, not tomorrow, the 1st is Friday. So it's about really setting new goals for the month, and then you review them on the last or the second last day of the month. And I'm going to share a bit more towards the end of this of how you can do that. And it's about keeping it really simple. So here's one thing that I did very early on. This was one that I did in 2018. And I used to do this with my recruitment team. And what you'll notice is this is very specific on just work and personal. But what I've done over the years of me having my coaching business is really worked with clients to have goals in their health, their work, and their personal life, because those are the key areas that we need a balance in. And so what you'll notice on here, they're very simple, very specific goals. So number 1, bill a certain amount of money. And then personal was to get my British passport, because I came through an ancestral route. And then a new home, and buy or rent it, and then a new car. Now, I succeeded those things. But the key thing was, it didn't happen overnight, but it was the steps that I took in order to achieve that. And that's what I want to show you, how you can do that. So that's just one way of you doing that. And I'm going to share how I've changed it over the years. And so when it comes to setting goals, it's about having the right ambition in place, the right work that you're going to take in order to achieve those goals. It's about the schedule, it's about the success, it's about the action, it's about the realistic steps that you're going to take. Are you maybe setting too many goals, like at the beginning of the month or the beginning of the year, perhaps maybe 20, 30 goals, and then you're burnt out before even January started? That was what tends to happen when people start a new year, and people don't really then succeed with keeping on with the things that they've set at the beginning of the year. And are you making a plan, and are you measuring all of these sorts of things? And perhaps on that also start to notice on that what stands out to you in there. And so how to stay on track and achieve success and uncertainty. The reality is we live uncertain lives every single day. We are not in control of many things. Even though we think we are not in control. And so every day has uncertainty. We don't know what the next hour is going to bring. I didn't know I was going to get diagnosed with cancer. I didn't know we were going to go into lockdown. None of us knew this was going to happen. And I guess that's the reality of, as soon as you can get comfortable with the uncertainty, that's then when you can thrive in this time. And the reality is, we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We can only focus on where we are here and now in the moment. And so these, again, when I was looking at and just refining what I'm sharing here with you, there is so much I could have shared here with you around achieving success in uncertainty, but these are the key things that I feel would help you most right now. So your mindset. If you have got the right resilient mindset, your behaviors are right, the action you're taking, the results you want, the performance you've got, and your attitude are right, in the right place, you are more likely to succeed in uncertainty and in the route that you want to go down. And it might be that the journey that you go on when you're setting your goals will take you on a different path. I never in a million years would have thought that some of the things that I'm doing right now would have come out of some of the goals that I've set. It's all about starting. So if anything, today I would love to encourage you to set some goals for May and also for the rest of the year, or even for the rest of the quarter, 90 days at a time, which I'm going to share how you can do that. And it's about starting with ideas, planning, and then having actions in order to achieve that, because that's what drives you to achieve those goals, is the action. But very often people are still sat on the idea, but they've not planned it and they haven't taken any action. And then the next thing is to really have that inner and external confidence to achieve that goal. And often people give up just before they're about to achieve that goal. And it's about having faith in yourself, having your faith in the ability of the actions that you're going to take. And the other thing is to be yourself. And I think so often, especially in the online world at the moment, and even in how we compare ourselves to others, is be yourself. So today I've shown up with my bow and a yellow dress. I am being myself. And that's also how we're likely to achieve our goals, is because if we are authentically ourselves, we authentically aligned to our values of what our values are in work, what our values are in our personal life, what our values are in relationships, how professional we are, what's our integrity, what do we say that we're going to do, that we commit to. And then that leads to growth. So again, staying on track to achieve success and uncertainty is growth. And that can feel really painful. It can feel tough. It can feel unsettling. And that's where probably many of you are right now, is in this growth state of, it's uncomfortable. I'm not sure. I'm not used to this before. But it's how you get through that growth. It's how you develop yourself through that growth. And it's just having a rock solid action plan. So it's all about looking at the objectives, your improvement, your checking every week, your strategy, your action, your scheduling, and your collaboration, what you're implementing, and then your perseverance to see yourself through this, and also your integrity. And I think that's probably one of the things that, again, in this time I've probably seen the most is integrity that's been evidenced really well, and then also integrity that's been really done quite poorly. And this is how we're going to stand out in these times. And in uncertainty, if you can identify what's missing for you right now, what you want to do differently to keep on track to achieve the success, that's what's going to help you. And the other thing is about re-identifying what success means for you. So for every single one of us here, success is going to mean something different. For some of us, it might be financial. For some of us, it might be more health focused. For some of us, it might be our family lives. Whatever it is, it's about identifying what success is for you. Some of it might be you want to change the world. Some of it you might want to create a legacy. It's whatever is important for you in identifying your success. And that can be quite a hard question to ask yourself. And so these are the goal setting mistakes that come up so often, that I even do myself. And as we, as myself and my team come to redoing our goals, we'll do that today, tomorrow, and Friday. Is I'm going to go into May with a lot less things in the goals, because I've noticed that, especially in this time right now, I wanted to slow down even more than ever. And so what happens with the mistakes that happen is we're thinking too small. How many of us have been there before, where we're thinking too small with how we want to achieve the goals that we want to achieve? Or perhaps we're not chunking down the goals enough, so simplifying them with actions that we need to take. Or we're setting too many vague goals. So it might be a work one is, I want to grow my audience, or I want to increase my clients, or I want to do fitness. Okay, well, how many times do you want to focus on your fitness every week? Is it 3 times? Is it 5 times? How do you want to increase your clients by 3 a week? And being really specific with the numbers, because if you're specific with the numbers, then you're going to achieve them. Not setting a deadline. That's one I see so often, is not setting a deadline of when you want to achieve something. Setting extrinsic goals, very external goals, not being confident. So we set the goals, but then we have a lack of confidence. Not writing goals down. And that is the most powerful thing to do, is to have them written down. So I haven't got everything right in front of me, but this is one that I've done with my husband. I've persuaded my husband to do goal setting. He's not really into this sort of thing, but since we've been married in the most recent years, this is something we do together at the beginning of January. And I have this obviously in a vision board format, but I also have this in my bedroom, really nicely, just creatively in a frame. And on here are some of the things: financial goals, the trips we wanted to go on, my husband's goals, health goals, personal goals, work goals, our reflections from last year. And so by not having it written down, then it's in your head. And so if you're waking up, especially in a time right now where we've got a bit of lack of self-belief, we're facing uncertainty, those goals are going to go completely out the window. They are not going to be in your conscious mind. But having it visual in front of you every single day is so powerful. So you can physically write them down. I do that in a planner, which I'm going to share with you shortly, or you can have them typed up like that creatively, however it's going to work for you. The other thing is waiting too long to commit and to procrastinate. And the really key thing is in this time right now, it is such an opportunity to evolve. Everything that I'm doing right now in my life has come out of the difficult times I had. My cancer journey, having burnout 8 years ago, I wouldn't have started my coaching business had I not gone through burnout 8 years ago. And so it's about us really committing and not procrastinating, and trying to control everything, but also neglecting your self-care and your well-being. So which one out of those is really starting to stand out for you, that perhaps you know and you recognize that you are not focusing on? So sorry, I've moved that. And so now I want us to look at what you can do when you're setting goals. And it's, it might be that you do some of these things. Parusha, I think we've got a few people in the waiting room. It just keeps flashing. Okay, sorry, maybe it's just stuck on my screen. And so it's about setting goals and accomplishing them. And these are some steps that you can put in place in order to help you with this. So it's about evaluating your situation. So assessing your past, your present is key. The present is really key to setting a goal. So what didn't work for you? What do you want to improve? And that's why us really focusing on measuring really helps us, making it smart. And I know we've all learned this so much, is your goals need to be specific. They need to be measurable. They need to be attainable. They need to be relevant. They need to be town bound. And then you need to evaluate them in order for them to be revisible. Writing them down, which is what I've shared there, because it's about the clarity and the strengths and the intentions that you're going to take. Holding yourself accountable. because that's what helps you with your motivation, your focus, your discipline, your thought throughout the whole process, and breaking it down into manageable steps, and then rewarding yourself through that. And that's for many of the clients I work with. How many of you, and a lot of you will probably be able to relate to this, will set a goal, but then you won't celebrate it and you won't reward yourself. You're just moving on to the next thing, so you're not content. And I would say you should be really acknowledging your success and rewarding yourself at the beginning. You start a week, you set your goals, you review them at the end of the week, how you've got on, reward yourself, celebrate the successes. And people don't do that. And that's what tends to help with positive actions, because that's what's going to keep you going. But if you're not celebrating those successes or those little steps that you're taking, what's going to happen is you're just going to give up so easily. And then it's about developing a system of habit, effective systems that keep you accountable in order to achieve this on a regular basis. So how many of you are doing some of these things that I've set here on setting your goals to accomplish them? I'd love to hear, and we can look at that shortly. And perhaps you can put them in the comments. So which goal type is chosen by what we decide for the outcome to be? And so I want to share some of these. There's 3 types of goals, and I think this is what tends to confuse people, or perhaps where we're not clear enough with what we want to do with our goals. So in order to achieve a journey, if you think about when we're going on a journey in a car or on the train or whatever we're doing, or we're flying somewhere, obviously we're not doing any of that right now, but I'm sure in due time we will. It's about an end point or a destination. So that could be setting this goal, could help you with achieving, could help you with believing in yourself, fueling your ambition, giving you inspiration, providing direction and clarity, and setting out what's important and where to focus. And it also helps us to start taking on more than we can achieve. And so there's 3 types of goals. So there's a type goal, a time goal, a focus, and a topic goal. And so which type of goal we choose is decided by the outcome. So it might be, by the 20th of May, I will have had 3 retained clients paying X. So that's a very time-focused goal, and it's very specific. Or it might be, by May 2019, I have 50% towards a deposit of my first house. So that is also, it's a very time-focused goal, because there's lots of things that need to happen in that. So what needs to happen in that is you need to maybe see the mortgage advisor. You need to save the money when you get paid. You need to be disciplined with the money and not spend it. There's so many things that need to be involved in that action that you're going to take with that goal. And so it's about breaking it down. So we look at the goal, we look at what we've done already in order to achieve the goal. Then we look at how we want to feel about the goal, how we're going to do that. And then we look at the options and the options that we've got in order to create the goal. What if we could start over again? What would that look like? What options do we have in order to support ourselves? What help do we need? And that's the magic that tends to happen, is the options. We always have an option, and then it's about the way forward and how we move forward. And that way forward could only mean maybe 2 or 3 things, but it's the action you're going to take. A very focused goal could be, I want to complete a marathon, or in 2020 I'll make progress in order to achieve success daily with work-life balance. So you'll notice there's a lot of different variety within those goals there, and I think it's a combination of having time, focus, and topic goals, and not just only having a focus goal where it's a lot harder to achieve because it's going to take time. And be reminded of your past successes, because that's what motivates us to work harder for more accomplishments in the future, and producing an ongoing cycle of success and achievement. Because whatever we've done in the past will help us to create what we're going to do moving forward. We don't just end up where we're ending up without the experience of what we've gone through previously. So don't just discount the experience that you've had in the past, because that's what's going to fuel you to achieve your goals. So it's about reflecting and measuring the data and implementing it. So what data are you measuring? How are you measuring your success and your progress? And what do you reflect on? What good things are happening for you? What lessons are you learning each week? And you know what? In this time right now, there is so much that we can learn, so much. How much profit are you making? If some of you here are business owners, how focused are you? How consistent are you? That's one I see that comes up massively when people are setting goals is the lack of consistency. So you might set a goal at the beginning of the week to say, I'm going to exercise 3 times. And you get to Monday, it's a terrible day, and then you give up. And then next week you say, yep, I'm going to exercise, and you start again. You do it maybe twice, and then things happen and you say, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to do it this week because it's too much. I'll do it maybe in 3 months' time. And then before you know it, that 3 months is 3 years, 5 years. So it's about the consistency. And success in business and work requires training. It requires discipline. It requires consistency. It requires hard work. So if you are on here today and you're fed up with the choices that you're making, you're fed up with your habits, you're fed up with your behavior, then it's time to change. And the power is in you, your mindset, and the choices that you make every single day. So I noticed that there's a few comments. I wonder, Purusha, just before I move on, if there's any that
somebody's saying that time is always part of any goal, whether it's exact time, date, or stretch time year. Everything else has just been asking some questions about some of your future questions and things like that, which we can address at the end.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think everything else was from earlier.
Okay. Okay. And so these are my top tips when setting goals, is about reflecting and measuring the data and implementing them. So myself and my team and the clients I work with, I tend to get people to work at 90 days at a time. And what that tends to happen is obviously you would work at a year at a time, but then what you're tending to do is you're then working at 90 days at a time. And so then what happens is that 90-day plan that you've got, so 3 months, is then broken down into a monthly plan. It is then broken down into a weekly plan. Then it's broken down into a daily plan. And then it's broken down into an hourly plan. So you'll notice there's a lot of simplicity in that. And the key thing is it's about really acknowledging the vision of what you want to create in your personal life, but also your work life. So everything I share here, I do in my personal life and my work life too. So what is the vision you've got, perhaps maybe for May or maybe for the next 3 months? And this is a great time to do this. We've just done it as a team a couple of weeks ago. We were due to do it. We do January, February, March, and then March, April, May, and that's what we tend to do. And we all work towards that vision. And know your why. Be really strong with your why and what you want to achieve. And then I would tend to say have 3 to 5 goals that you would want to work at. I'd say 3 ideally, but if you're a high achiever, have 5. And that could be 3 in work and also so 3 to 5 work and then 3 to 5 personal. And then it's about the measures. How are you going to measure that? So if you hear and you're in a business or you're in a work capacity, it's about first your well-being. Then it's your marketing, your business actions, your sales, your personal professional development. And then if it's your personal life, it's the same thing. It's your relationships, it's your finance, it's your health. It's all of those pillars of measures that you want to focus on. And so then it's about then creating an action to make that happen. And then it's about understanding the intention behind it. So why do you want to do that? So, if from a business perspective, is it to increase revenue? Is it to increase sales? Is it to increase impact? What is it for you that you want to create? Because when you're clear and you've got that clarity, you're more likely to go and take the action every single day. And then it's about really reflecting and reviewing it on the first of the month and then at the end of the month. And I've got some really powerful questions which I'll get you to. It might be that you might have to take them away. You might have an opportunity to fill them out now unless there's not too many questions. But it's always the journey to get to the goal. And it's never about giving up on the goal. It's about persevering through that goal, having belief in that goal, and then keep achieving that goal. And it might be that you just need to adjust the strategy, or you need to adjust the actions in order to get to that goal. But it's you continuing to succeed with that. Now, some of my goals on there have been around travel this year. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I'm not going to just take that off my goal list. I'm going to still keep it on there because it might be that we plan for next year's trips away on holiday. And it's the key thing. That's the thing. It's not about giving it up. And I think as humans, we give up so quickly, but don't give up, because that's where you're going to persevere. And that's what I just want to speak into you right now, is don't give up on the goals that you've had. Don't give up on the vision that you've got, because it's so powerful in order to understand yourself more as you create these things. Have the belief in yourselves, because you are all amazing. You know, we all have a purpose. We all have life. We all have something to give to the world, but we need to persevere with our goals. We need to believe in ourselves in order to do that. So these are my top 10 steps for success. So the new only comes when you're willing to let go of the old. And I think very often we are hanging on to things from the past. And I say this too, speaking you know, from experience too. There's things I still hang on to from my past when I worked in recruitment, back-to-back diaries, all sorts of things that I still have to work through on a daily basis. But we've got to let go of the old to allow the new in. The big journeys begin with small steps, and procrastination happens when our goals are bigger than our energy levels. Hence why your well-being has got to be top of the list. The first thing that is always on my goals is health. I've got to be healthy. I've got to have a good well-being. I've got to be looking after myself. I've got to be nourishing myself, because if I'm not well, I cannot achieve my goals. And so even when our energy levels are struggling, sometimes it's about the courage that we've got. It's about the boldness that we've got. It's about us really, you know, pursuing the boldness within ourselves, because we've got all of these things within ourselves. We just need to reignite it. We need to refine that spark. And also just changing your language. I win, I learn, but I never lose. And that's the reality. When you're setting your goals, you're never going to lose. You're never going to lose. There will always be learning. And sometimes it might not end up the way you thought it would, but it's going to end up working out for the better, or even for the worse, because there might be lessons that we've got to learn. So these are the top 10 steps for success. So try again, try once more, try a little differently, try it again tomorrow, try and ask for help. That's the most powerful one. People do not ask for help. And that's where I've succeeded so much, is trying to get help. When I was in recruitment 8 years ago, and I was a top performer and my team were also top performing, I didn't ask for enough help, hence why I had burnout. Now, if I had a coach at that time, if I had somebody else that was outside of my everyday, my family life, my work life, things could have ended up being so different. Hence why I've ended up going into the coaching space, and I'm so passionate about that. Getting help doesn't mean you're failing. It just means that person's going to help you to get to where you want to get to. Try and find someone who's done it before you, and try to determine what's not working. Very often we're always looking at what's working, but not what's not working. And when we find out what's not working, that's when we can create the changes. And just to keep trying, don't give up. And I'm sure many of you in our school days, certainly where I went to school, on the reports we used to have, it used to say, just keep trying, just keep trying. And you'd be like, I don't think we can do that now in reports and in education. But the key thing is to just keep trying and keep persevering. So that's pretty much a whiz on goal setting. There's a few things just to finish up in here, but I wanted to add this in also around tools for goal setting. So the key thing is it's about you. This is all starts with you, your mindset, your actions, your vision, your goals, the results you want to create. And then it's about getting pen to paper. And it's about writing things down. I'm quite old school. I love writing things down. I've got journals and books and all sorts. I write a lot of things down. And then it's about planning, having the vision, keeping it visual in front of you. Like I said, I've got it in my bedroom, I've got it in the office, I've got it in my planners. And then it's about developing and growing your mindset personally, but also professionally. And do you know what I notice the most, and I'm sure some of you will relate to this, is I notice a lot of people don't focus enough on their professional development. And that's something I've definitely noticed in this time right now. Those that have developed themselves professionally have been able to be more resilient through this time, and those that have perhaps maybe let their personal development, their personal and their professional development perhaps maybe not be a focus, have struggled a lot more in this time. Because if we're focusing on those two things, developing ourselves, we're going to be able to get through these times. And then using a planner. So I use a couple of planners. This is one which is called the Passion Planner, and there's so many of these out there. This is one I've used for a couple of years. So it's a physical planner. You'll see it's very color coordinated. Very color coordinated. I don't know if you might be able to see. Very color coordinated, but it gives you an opportunity to look at life goals, work goals, focus. My team have got that. Some of my clients have got that. So I use that one for work, and then I've got one that I use personally, which is not one that I've used before. It's called the New You Planner, and I use this more for my personal stuff. And I know you're probably thinking, goodness, so many planners, journals, but I love a lot of those sort of things. And then it could be your diary, online, offline, and then weekly and monthly questions that you're asking. And these are some of the questions that I would be asking myself probably tomorrow when I create the time to do that. Is, what was the most memorable part of this last month? Describe it. And some of these questions here that have come from the Passion Planner give you such insight to how you want to do things differently, and what were the biggest lessons you have learned in the past month. And I really encourage you to take some time to do this, because it's going to give you such insight to how you want to proceed moving forward. Review your commitments. Are you happy with the time that you spent? And taking steps in order to adjust to the next month. And what did you accomplish in the past month that you were most proud of? And there's so many things that come up when I tend to do this, and my team tend to do this, and the clients tend to do this. How are you different between this last month and the month before that? And I'm sure all of us will say, from where we were a month ago to where we are now is completely different. And we should all be proud of ourselves. What and who are you most grateful for this past month? I know for me, I'm really grateful to have been doing some of these Zest talks. I've loved being connected, and it's just been great. My clients, lots of different things. So, and then what are 3 things that you can improve on in the coming month? So if we're not looking at improving things, we can't then move forward. And then what concrete actions can you take in order to move towards these improvements? And then I've got some details of how you can connect with us, which will be on the slides after that. But that is pretty much what I wanted to share with you. It's a very quick whistle stop. There's so much more I could have shared, and there's so much more I would have got you to do if we had more time. But I hope that that has inspired you to create some goals in this uncertain time right now.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kiki. Yeah, it's really interesting reflecting on goals. Goal setting is not something that I have done very much recently, and I think it was just but it's something that I've learned about a while ago, and so I think it's really great to have a refresher and to look at the different steps that there are to goal setting, and actually what goals means as well. I scribbled quite a few things down, and I love the quote, "Big journeys begin with small steps," and I think that is something that is really very important right now, because life is overwhelming for so many people, and life is uncertain for so many, and so I think just making those 1 or 2 little steps each day, and being accountable for them from yourself is a good way of keeping oneself in that positive mindset. The words that related to me in terms of goals were dream and purpose. So I
like it, yeah.
I remember that slide early on, but if you want to share in the chat, what were the words that goals meant to you? Mine were dream and purpose. So
like that.
Yeah, I might put those up on some towels somewhere in my office. I really like that.
Yeah.
But there's been lots of comments coming through, and there's been a few questions and things. So maybe I can just start by asking some of those. So when you're looking at goal setting, and you talked about work goals and life goals, can work and life goals kind of overlap, or can they merge, or can they be similar or the same thing?
Yeah, good question. And I would say it's whatever's going to work for you. So I tend to have them very separate. They're together, but they're quite separate of the steps that I'm going to take. So these are the life goals, these are the work goals, but they're going to all merge in one. So it might be like the day, how a day works out is I'm going to journal, and then I'm going to exercise, and I'm going to eat well and nourish myself. And then I'm going to switch off at 8 o'clock from being online. But then in between that, in the week, is the work that needs to happen. So it's however you you want it to be. And I would say maybe not to be too prescriptive. And this is a lot of trial and error. So for me, that's what tends to work. So when I come to setting the goals at the beginning of the month, there will always be life first and personal, and then there would be the 3 aspects of work, whatever. So mine would be business actions, coaching, consultancy, and then team development stuff. So it's whatever's going to work for you. So I hope that answers your question of there's no right or wrong. It's what was going to work for you.
Yeah, I think quite often many people can think that goals are something that are just reserved for the workplace, or they are things that your manager sets for you. And actually everything that we talked about today is really those personal goals. So simple things, actually I'm going to exercise 3 times a week, or I'm going to make sure that I eat, balanced, healthy meals, or whatever it may be. And or I'm going to look at my financial planning, or all those things, that we're kind of talking about on this platform. And so I think that's a really good reminder, because I think perhaps some of those things are not necessarily things that we would have all thought of goals. And again, it's just, I think it's about breaking them down and making them achievable.
Yeah. And I guess, sorry, just on that, I just wanted to share is obviously that exercise would be the first thing that you do in the morning, but it's got to be in your diary, because if you exercise at, let's say 10 o'clock, but you've got work commitments then it's about making sure that you know what's going to work well for you and your routine and your structure and what you want to achieve, which is what's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is something that's really interesting, because right now everybody is at home, but we are very shortly going to be transitioning back to the workplace, or not all just from home. And I think that is something that people are going to have to consider, and employers are going to have to consider. I think about it earlier. There are lots of people that I've spoken to who actually have really enjoyed not having that daily commute, or spending more time with their family, or have enjoyed the slower pace of life. And so there's a re-evaluation going on in terms of their goals. So I think it will be quite interesting to see will be if people are realigning their goals, how does that then realign with perhaps the employer's ambition? Whether you have any sort of comments to make around that.
Yeah. So interestingly, I'll probably say the last 2 weeks, a lot of the conversations I've been having with people in the workplace is certainly at board level or at director level, those conversations are starting to happen of, do you know what, we recognize that our people and our staff have been at home with family, that they've had a little bit more flexibility with working from home, and actually this can work, and actually it's better if the employee's well-being is looked after, and we need to be more flexible. Interestingly, some of the clients that we do work with had already, just before we started this, had changed and added in flexible working, so core hours between 10 and 4, 4 days a week. So some people had already started to do this. And so I'll be very surprised. Well, I think a lot's going to change in the workplace around how business is done, office space, and I think it's going to be a very exciting time to evolve, making sure that our well-being is really important, and productivity, because I know for myself, the more I've slowed down over the years, the more I've achieved, because you're more focused, you're a lot more clear with your time and your plans, your boundaries are a lot more refined, and it's either yes or no of how you're going to achieve what you need to achieve. So it'll be very interesting to see how this is going to all change, how a lot of the bigger organizations are going to look to change things, do a lot more online. Some people, maybe some of the more traditional organizations who weren't keen on people working from home have been forced to do that. And that's what happens in these times. It forces us to do something different. So it's always the journey to get to where we need to get to.
Yeah, and I think it's really it's great to see that well-being is becoming much higher up the agenda with corporations of any size. And actually, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we were discussing the PwC report of well-being in the workplace, which you can probably Google and find and have a read if anyone's interested. But I think when you see big organisations, one of the big 5 organisations, actually writing reports like that, it means that there's then this cascade effect where it comes down and it filters through, and so well-being is something that is definitely being more along with along with lots of other things that corporations are looking at, but I think it's definitely coming higher on the agenda. And one of the things that we ran last week with Kelly Tucker, who's an HR professional, she was again saying the same, that the companies that she works with, they're all talking about employee engagement, and that is employee engagement within the workplace, but it's understanding the individual's goals, if you like, and how those can align with organisations. So it's a very large, big piece of work, but it sounds like it is it's for anyone who is employed by companies moving forward. I don't know whether anybody's got any other comments, or let me just have a quick look on the chat here. So Holly has said that her words were ambition, aim, and
ambition. Love those, Holly. And Holly is, I know Holly through work. Also, she works at HR Star, and I knew her before there too. And I know she's achieved some really great goals, and also done some traveling and writing, and knowing and having those goals is so strong and important. So ambition, aim, aspiration, like those.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a comment here saying trust and meeting targets will play an even bigger part than bums on seats.
Yes.
So yeah, it's good. So I guess again, it's about those steps to achieving those goals. There's a definite period of reflection that's happening for a lot of people right now, and I really like the way that you were talking about small steps with the goals. It's quite often can be overwhelming when you set a number of goals. What sort of tips do you have for people to try and keep that motivation going to actually achieve those goals? Would you recommend kind of setting fewer and then building up, or being accountable, setting them with somebody else, or?
I'd definitely say start smaller, because that's what happens is people burn out so quickly. So start small. It might be that you say, do you know what, I'm going to do 3 goals in the month of May personally, and then I'm going to do 3 in the month of May for work, and then you take the action. So like, as an example, I'll share briefly. So in the month of April, some of mine were to exercise 3 times a week, which, to be honest, has been on my list every week since I've returned, since the beginning of last year, as I've got better after cancer. Now, have I achieved three amounts of exercise every week? Not always, because my body's still getting back, but I still have it on there. So I'm going to do some exercise today after doing some on Sunday. But if I don't have it on there, I'm not going to achieve it. Clearing out wardrobes, I did that at the weekend. Very boring job, but I didn't want it to be on my goals going again into May. So just simple things like that, clearing out the garden, looking at my budget, at our personal budget, those types of things that I want to achieve, that are still on the list, that I want to clear. It might be to read a certain book, and then work stuff would obviously be very, very specific. So, doing a certain amount of these masterclasses, connecting with a certain amount of clients, maybe relooking at our purpose, relooking at what we're doing, relooking at our offering, whatever that is for, might be social media related, whatever that is, but really sticking to that.
Yeah, and I think from what you're saying there as well is actually it's being kind to yourself and recognizing that the goal can be to achieve three parts of 3 sessions of exercise a week, for example, but actually if you don't do it, it's not considered a failure. It can just remain on there. Maybe it's something to aim for the following week.
And definitely be accountable. But more importantly, if you can't be accountable to yourself, you're less likely to be able to be accountable to other people. And it starts with you. And that's that piece at the very beginning. Do you remember I said the integrity? So for me, it's all about authenticity and living and breathing what I share with my clients and what I do. So if I am sharing this with you, I also have to do this. I can't not do it. And so it's about that respect you've got for yourself. It's about that value you've got for yourself. It's about what you're going to do in order to be a better version of yourself every single day.
Yes, and that was exactly the message that was echoed on a session we had yesterday around personal brand, which is
really
about walking the walk, talking the talk. So if you are presenting your brand, which is yourself, it's about being authentic to who you are. So that definitely echoes. Kiki, You have shared so much again with us today, and I
thank you
for coming on. I know a few people have been asking about future workshops, and I know there's 1 or 2 listed on Kiki's website. So if you do want to catch Kiki again, she's got an amazing selection of masterclasses on there and free resources on there, which she is generously giving to everyone at this time. So you can catch her on kikikirbycoaching.co.uk. And Kiki has also got presence on LinkedIn, Instagram, and various social, Twitter and social media platforms. So you can always follow her there to keep up to date with anything that's happening.
And I'd love to hear what, please drop me an email, or even on social media, drop me a DM with what goals you're going to commit to this month. I'd really love that, because, we can spend time on all these masterclasses, but it's what are we going to do with the information after this? So I hope that this has inspired you to create some goals right now. I'd love to hear from you, and perhaps maybe you can tag us in it on social media or whatever that is. We would love to see it, of what you're going to do, because this is how you're going to birth something, or you're going to create something new in this time.
Brilliant. We will I'm going to do some as well to make myself accountable. So thank you.
Good.
We have recorded this session today, and we have got the slides for you as well, and we will be sharing Kiki's contact details in case anybody would like to get in touch separately. So we will be emailing that to you in a day or so. Please do feel free to share that far and wide if you feel that there are colleagues, friends, family that may benefit from watching this session again. We appreciate that not everybody can always join us live, and we are finding more and more people are returning to our content or sharing it afterwards. So that is why it's all available for you to watch in your own time. So if anybody's got anything else they'd like to share on the chat, please do pop it on now. It's always great to hear what you thought of the sessions. If anyone's already set a goal, let us know what that is.
Yes.
And there are more motivation in isolation events coming up. So do check back on the Eventbrite page or on the Zest Global Events website, where you can see a list of everything that's taken place and all the videos there, and anything that is coming up again in the future. So thank you very much again, Kiki. It was really a pleasure to have this session again with you this morning. And there's lots of people saying thank you for knowledge and advice shared. Really helpful. Great session.
Great.
Thank you. Adaptability is one of the keys to successes.
Yes.
So leading and preaching through example. Well done, Kiki. So yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming to join us.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Lovely to have met you all and see some familiar faces, and have a good May, a healthy, happy May.
Thank you. Bye-bye.